Well, you can see us, you can see everybody? Yes, or at least me? Yes? All good.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Good to see you, Balaji.
Good to see you. I was at Coinbase, of course, you're at Binance, and, but I think we've always respected each other, and I've admired the way that you've scaled, crypto and gotten millions into Bitcoin globally. How many users do you have now? How many places? What's the latest?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the nice words. Well, I would say, look, I didn't scale crypto. We just helped with our own ramping people into the space. So we have passed 150 million users about a couple of months ago. I think we will be slightly above that now. So I don't know what the exact number is.
Great.
And we're also seeing somewhere between 200,000 to 300,000 or even 500,000 active users on a weekly, monthly basis. So the user base is pretty active.
And it's spread across almost every country in the world now at this point, right? Well, almost every.
Almost every, except the US.
Yes.
But US, we have a separate platform, Binance US, servicing that, yeah.
Right. What are, in your view, I'm going to talk to the Winklevoss about this as well later, but what are, in your view, the most technologically progressive jurisdictions, the ones that are open to crypto, but also to other things?
I think some of the smaller nations are more progressive because probably easier for them to adapt new regulations, new frameworks, etc. Like UAE, Bahrain. But some of the bigger ones like France, Europe is quite open too. And also Asia is kind of opening up again. Hong Kong, I think Japan is probably more progressive in most of Asia, and it's a large economy too. And then we're also seeing Thailand, other places opening up too. Yeah.
I think that's right. I think also small countries like Palau, Bhutan, El Salvador that people don't normally think about are the ones that are adopting crypto and Bitcoin. So, okay,
That's
so
very
now,
true.
yeah, and it's good because those countries can benefit a lot from us bringing business to those areas. I think you became a Palau RNSID person, Vitalik did as well recently, right?
Actually, I haven't got the ID myself. I know of the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's cool. Okay. So, all right. So here's some news we can use for the crowd. So we've seen obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, smart contracts, NFTs, DeFi, zero knowledge, scalability. What's next?
That's a big one. So I don't know. I think you probably know better than me. So at Binance, we try to facilitate other projects to grow. So we typically give them a platform for them to grow. And we try to catch trends, not invent trends. Yeah.
Well, one thing I do think is worth paying attention to on that is there's a group called 0x Park, like a play on words of Xerox Park. And they're doing programmable zero knowledge where like many different pieces of cryptography specifically are becoming programmable. I think that's definitely something to watch. Okay, so kind of somewhat related question. So most people think of NFTs, maybe not this crowd, but most people think of NFTs as expensive JPEGs. But nowadays, rather than buying one NFT for $1 million, we can send 1 million NFTs for a few dollars with tools like compressed NFTs and rollups and things like that. And so that means just like collecting likes or favorites, we can give people micro NFTs, collectibles for online actions. Have you given any thought to integrating that kind of thing into Binance or your properties?
Yes, absolutely. So I think NFTs are still going through a hard time right now because, as you said, NFTs should not be just expensive JPEGs.
Right.
So I think now there's newer technologies, and there's a lot of different applications for NFTs that we have not tapped into. Binance does have an NFT marketplace, but it's not the largest one because NFTs are not high frequency trading. So people bid on it and then there's a price. They don't trade millions of times a day. So it doesn't require our type of technology. It doesn't require high throughput, low latency price discovery. So in the future, though, I do think that there's a lot more different use cases for NFTs we would love to support. And also with those new applications, the demand for it will be higher and the price discovery may be more instant and more lower latency. So hopefully when that happens, we will have an advantage in providing those type of marketplaces.
Yeah, one way that we've thought about it is just like every coin supports buy, sell, send, receive, but then it has other features on top. For example, Zcash, you can send a private transaction, or Ethereum, you can do a smart contract, something like that. One way I've started to think about is NFTification as a feature. So ENS supports other things, and then it supports like NFT properties as a subroutine as opposed to the main thing. So I'm wondering if you're thinking about things along those lines, the things that would benefit from NFTification.
Absolutely. I think so. NFT should, yeah. So I just basically agree.
It's a utility question.
I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what other applications people will build. Yeah.
So have you seen any other, in your view, like ENS to me is a canonical example of like a useful NFT, like with utility. Have you seen any others that you think of as useful or that people should? I'm not endorsing. I just think ENS is useful. I'm not saying get ENS or something like that. Not financial advice, okay, guys, please. The Ethereum name system is useful. Not. But go ahead. Do you have any thoughts on utility?
Sure. I think there's a lot of different utilities. Like in your network state, identity can be
Yes.
well, that probably is a soulbound token, maybe not an NFT, but ticketing, anything like tickets for the event could be an NFT. You may have residual collection value. And you also have utility value when how you buy it, how you store it, how you transfer it before you attend the event, and then you attend. There's many like in-game virtual assets are being explored, but they're not explored in kind of a limited way still. The in-game virtual assets can be cross games. The same token, the same NFT can be used in different games. So there's many different type of applications that we're not really using right now. I'm not like very far out there with NFT use cases, but I do think we're just at the tip of the iceberg.
So I'll tell you some things that I've seen, or what have you, get your thoughts. So Luma has actually been, which a lot of people here actually use for calendar events and so on and so forth, has crypto integration, and I think they could offer like NFT ticketing, like you mentioned. There's this new app called Interface that a bunch of people invested in. I invested in that. Is almost like a Twitter, but for the blockchain, and you can actually see events on there and people get collectibles. And Farcaster is actually using NFTs to define channel membership, like almost like a subreddit. Your membership in that is NFT defined. So those are some of the things I've been seeing in terms of NFTs, like in terms of utility defining group membership. It's almost like a login credential. So
yeah, so I think all of those things will come, but right now we need more people to develop more applications for it.
Cool. Somewhat related to that, people think of smart contracts, that's on-chain code, and NFTs can be conceptualized as on-chain data. You've got a few bytes of verifiable information on-chain. If you don't think of the image necessarily, but like who owns it and at what time, right? So we've got code, we've got data. Well, what kinds of applications might we see beyond traditional DeFi? It's funny to call DeFi traditional, but now it's a few years old, What else, anything else you're thinking about on-chain besides trading type stuff, which is of course important?
I would love to see an on-chain social media platform.
Yes.
So because today there's really Twitter, and so you're a heavy Twitter user, I'm a heavy Twitter user. So that application can be brought on-chain, and there are various different aspects of it that we can deal with: spam, the scammers, the ID verification. But most blockchains today probably cannot handle the volume of Twitter interactions or events. But now with layer 2, with other technologies, I think we're now one step closer. I think we're pretty much probably on the cusp of just one more step, we'll get there.
I think you're right. Like Lens Protocol, Farcaster, there's a few of these that I think are doing pretty well on this. And they're not necessarily fully on-chain, but they're putting certain key aspects on-chain, sort of like Netflix. It didn't stream video right away. It had a website, and you did mail order DVD, and it like some of the crucial bits, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. There's a bunch of other stuff I can ask you here. Okay, what do we need to get, this is like this is an interesting question, everybody's got a different answer, but what do we need to get the next 100 million people into crypto, or the next billion into crypto?
I think today, to be very frank, it's actually fiat on-ramps, in my view.
Yep.
Because everybody's focused on different part of the problem. That's where we see rubber meets the road. with the tightening of regulations in the past, like in the early part of this year, we're seeing a lot of the traditional institutions that used to provide fiat on-ramps pulled away, but at the same time, we're seeing new ones coming in.
Yep.
So we're like, this industry has probably a few 100 million users already, and just doubling that. I think doubling that will probably get to 1 billion users for the industry as a whole. I think a lot of banks, if they only service one country, then they get very small number of users. They get 1 million users. That's already very large for a bank. Whereas if they come to crypto, then we can drive tens of or hundreds of millions of users to them, and we benefit them greatly. So we're seeing that a lot of banks or a lot of traditional financial institutions want that opportunity. So I think as much as people are focused on the more advanced use cases of crypto, I think that's really important. But to get more people into crypto, we got to convert fiat to crypto, and vice versa. Yeah.
I agree. And one thought I've had is that it's possible that crypto doesn't win like the internet, but it wins like Christianity or a major religion, in the sense of having a few billion users, so to speak, adherents worldwide, but not everybody, right? It wins like a very successful political movement, but it also arouses resistance or people on their side. And I think that's kind of what's happening. But if you have a few billion people, even if you don't have everybody, that's still a huge victory. And to your point, like within the U.S., there's a lot of states that are having state-chartered banks bank crypto companies. And there's places like El Salvador or the Middle East or small countries that are doing it. So it may turn out that we want to have a state make a sovereign fund investment in a company and then greenlight fiat banking rails, for example, that kind of thing. And then you have like alignment where they're taking conscious risk and they're saying, you know what, our regulators are saying, open the doors. Hong Kong actually supposedly has done something like this recently, right? With with them being pro-crypto.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few things to unpack there. Well, I think going to the earlier point, number one is crypto doesn't need 100% adoption, right? Internet only has about 60% adoption globally. So we think everybody uses the internet, but based on some statistics that I saw recently, only 60% of people use internet globally. So if crypto is around 5% adoption right now in terms of how many people who have some kind of crypto?
Yes.
Maybe a bit higher than that now. We're like between 5 to 10% is where we say we cross the chasm, right? So I think we're pretty close to that. And once we cross the chasm, the growth goes exponential. So I think we're kind of on the verge of that. So we're still early, but we're not super early anymore. I think we're kind of getting close.
Yeah, it's funny.
And
because,
then
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I didn't want to interrupt. Yeah, you're going to say something.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. No, you
okay,
go.
I'll go. Fine. So that's called a race condition. So I do think that the fiat on-ramp problem is actually really important, really solvable. It's funny you say that because many people focus at like the federal level and they go and lobby at the national government level, but lots of state governments, lots of small governments don't have that many people knocking on their door. Certainly not that many people knocking on their door who are entrepreneurs that will invest millions of dollars in their jurisdiction if they just put a line through some outdated policy. They can basically they don't need subsidies or anything like that. They can just say, okay, we are a crypto-friendly jurisdiction, or we're longevity-friendly, or some other technology. And I think we're going to get enough support from that because of the sheer upside of this. I think also that the countries that have that adopt cryptocurrency will also, they will have more sovereignty as a consequence, because they can't be shut down from international rails and things like that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So I think on those fronts, like for example, in Singapore, right? Singapore is crypto friendly, but because of the previous FTX issues, they're more conservative now. Well, they're careful to avoid those type of problems in the future. So Singapore's not open to crypto's not really open to retail users in a very limited fashion.
Right.
Whereas Hong Kong says, well, we want to do better than that. So Hong Kong's crypto's open to retail users. But Hong Kong still have a limited number of coins that you can list, at least today. right? So there's still quite a restriction on the tokens that an exchange can list. Whereas this is the situation in Japan 6 years ago. Right. So, but Japan's now opened up, saying, look, you can list hundreds of coins on your exchange, which Binance Japan lists. So we're seeing different progress in different countries in different places, and these are more of the financially developed countries. And then if you look at other countries like El Salvador doesn't have their own currency. Right? They use the U.S. dollar. So for them to adopt Bitcoin is much easier. So El Salvador, you have a very forward-thinking, progressive president, President Nayib, and then he makes everything happen.
Yep.
So Binance is also in El Salvador. So so we're seeing different things happening in different places.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting is countries aren't just taking a position and then sticking to it. They will ban and then they will unban, like potentially what happened in Hong Kong, or they'll be friendly and then they'll reverse. And so you're seeing doors open and doors close and doors open again in this interesting kind of way. Like, Larry Fink of BlackRock was very against Bitcoin a few years ago, and now everybody is doing a Bitcoin ETF, and we'll eventually get it through, Satoshi willing. Okay, got a couple more. All right, so there's obviously many other things happening in the world besides crypto. There's AI, and of course, and there's also fields like robotics and genomics, all fields I've worked in, invested in. For example, Brian Armstrong and Vitalik and I were all investing in longevity stuff as well, right? What else are you interested in besides Binance? I know that occupies most of your attention, all of your attention, but what else are you interested in?
So I'm kind of curious in longevity as well. I met with David Sinclair in Abu Dhabi not long ago. So kind of, I'm trying to understand that, learn about it, but I'm not an expert. I haven't done much investments there. I do want to, once I have more time, I do want to look at that. I'm actually quite curious, what's happening with your network state? You, Vitalik, were in Montenegro for a while.
Yes.
How is that going?
It's good. So actually, there is a Zuzulu happening now in Singapore. There's also a network state meetup later tonight. I'm going to formally launch this or whatever soon, but I've decided that I actually probably need to just go and do it myself, not just write the book on it. Okay. So that's coming. Essentially it is just recruiting network state meetup organizers around the world. And these are like individual startup CEOs, but they're CEOs of communities, not companies. And you kind of grade them by, can you get 10 people to show up for a meetup? Can you get them to show up for multiple weeks in a row? Can you get 100? Can you get paying subscribers? Can you get them to wear what I call NFT shirts? NFT shirts, it's NFT plus a t-shirt. Basically, you buy like a Gray Tribe t-shirt. It's got your tribal logos and insignias on it. And you also get a little digital tchotchke with you. So it gives you both physical and digital login to a thing, and it's kind of a collectible. And as these communities organize, like Barack Obama, I'm going to become a community organizer. That's my new title. Okay. As these communities organize, you go from crowdfunding brunches to crowdfunding buildings. In the same sense, if you can get $100 over and over and deliver a great brunch, okay, maybe that's like one person nowadays with inflation, but fine, okay. Whatever the amount is, if you do that reliably, then you've earned the trust of that group, and you can do $1,000 and then $10,000, $100,000, start allocating it, and that's like these people are sort of becoming mayors and governors of larger and larger groups. Just like you start a company, you go from 1 to thousands of users. You start a community, you go from 1 to thousands of people. It's like becoming the mayor, right? And you're actually allocating public goods. Anyway, so since you asked, that's what's coming next. All right, so you guys all got a preview of that.
In this network state, can you get like passports, citizenship?
Well, I've got so much awesome stuff on this, but I'll preview it as well. So all the NFT stuff actually does allow login of this kind. And if you had a service where you could have, just like you've built the crypto fiat bridge, and Coinbase has built the crypto fiat bridge for cryptocurrency and fiat currency, and that turned out to be more valuable than anybody thought. I think the bridge between fiat identity and crypto identity, between fiat X, fiat stock and crypto stock, fiat X and crypto X for various values of X. Each of those are humongous businesses. Each of those are huge things. And I think the fiat identity to crypto identity bridge, that digital passport, is what comes after digital currency. So stay tuned. I'll let you have the final word. Go ahead.
See,
What should people look for
I would love to
from
see
Binance?
that passport being available on OPBNB, the layer 2, the new layer 2 that just launched on BNB chain.
I might have to put it on base first. Brian is an old friend, but
That's
maybe
all right.
BNB second.
We'll get it on both.
Okay, great. All right. So take a selfie. Okay, how do I do this? Let's see how I do this. Okay. CZ and the crowd. How do we do that?
All right, CZ and the crowd. So CZ is on the monitors here, so don't worry, you'll be in the picture. Everybody, hands up. Big hello. Hey!